My channel for a long time has been associated with brushed micro quadcopters, and that comes from my first quadcopter being the RTF Hubsan H107D. I modified it until it could no longer be recognised, and since then many components have been released that allow us to make them fly with the same features as a 250 mini quad. I get asked a lot, will you build me one? I will pay you. The problem with that is I get asked that a lot, and while I wish I had the manpower to fulfill those requests, I can't. That's not really a problem anymore though. Banggood are selling this, which is the Eachine QX90. It's a tiny 90mm bind and fly brushed micro quadcopter, which they are somehow selling at just £55. I don't know how Banggood are making money from this, because the sheer time that it takes to build stuff like this surely cannot be made up for in profit. Luckily for us, they are somehow managing to do that. Let's take a look at what you get in the box. The quad and all of its components are stored in this foam padding. One thing that I wasn't too keen on is that they have bent over the cloverleaf antenna in order for it to fit in the box. A few bends of this antenna could eventually break it, so I suggest that you don't store it in this box unless you are happy for the antenna to stay in its seated back position, which when flying in close proximity probably won't make too much difference anyway. The camera looks similar to the Hyperion or Quantum Elite combo, however this one has dip switches on the back rather than a button to cycle through the channels. It also appears to be different than the Eachine branded camera as well. It's pretty neat though. It supports 40 5.8 GHz channels, and you get a piece of paper showing you the dip switch combo to transmit to the required channel. The camera comes with a lens protector installed. It's a rookie mistake not to take it off before booting it up and wondering why the video is blank, but we have all done it. I 99% of the time end up losing these, but I guess they are good for transporting them across the world. Another thing to watch out for is I found that the lens can be moved pretty easily. Out of the box, this one was out of focus and I have had to twist it until the image became clear. It's probably best to add hot glue once you have your desired focus to ensure that you don't have to focus the camera before every flight. It does stay in focus once in the air though, even without hot glue. The frame is made out of carbon fiber and the motor holders are a rubber material. It's using 4 8.5mm motors and Hubsan props. I imagine that you can't use the rolling spider props with this one, as with the Hubsan props they are just missing the camera. The flight controller is the new brushed F3 board based on the SP Racing brushless board. It allows the use of S-Bus, which means it can use a FreeSky receiver, which is what it also comes with. Of course, you can install Betaflight and completely customize it. However, for this initial test, I'm going to fly with the stock settings, which is using CleanFlight. I think if you are buying something like this, then you don't have the time to build one. Therefore, you don't have the time to mess around with the settings either. You are given two one-cell 600mAh batteries that connect via a micro LOSI connector. You are given a charging cable, however, no charger. The cable is designed to connect to the balance port of a B3ac Charger. However, I will be using my multi-port Hobby Tiger charger. You are given two spare motors in clockwise and counterclockwise orientation, a double-sided sticky pad to secure the battery in. What you want to do here is get yourself a small rubber band and piggyback it onto the hooks used to band in the camera. These can travel underneath the quad and secure your battery in much better. I'm not sure why you are given sticky pads to mount the battery to. You can't make use of both batteries if you use that. One simple rubber band is all they needed to include to secure that battery in place. You are also given a spare set of props, which I've lost two already. Out of the box, the props are not fully pushed into place, and on my first flight, they pinged off into a bush. Before every flight, make sure that the props are pressed in fully down. You are also given a carbon fiber prop remover. You just need two more things to get it in the air, and unfortunately, they are pretty expensive. The first is the FreeSky Taranis. Now you can use a Devo 7e if you like with a module, but honestly the Taranis is the standard for hobby flying. And of course you need some kind of FPV goggles or monitor. I will be using my Fatshark Dominator V3s as they will also allow me to record the flight footage to show you. You can't buy them anymore. The closest that you can get to this model is the 16:9 V3 or the more expensive HD2s, which I wasn't a fan of. The setup is really easy. The instructions tell you all you need to know. You need to create a model using the TAER inputs and outputs, as well as your mode switch on channel 5. As standard, the only mode set up is the arming switch. From stock, the quad is stuck in angle mode, which is self-level. You would need to go into clean flight or better flight to change this. This one is pretty important. You need to ensure that the Taranis is in D8 mode, otherwise you won't get a bind with the quad. I was a little worried about binding this quad with my Taranis, as binding any other FreeSky receiver to it that has been bought aftermarket is usually a problem. I have the EU version of the Taranis, which runs different firmware. I'm happy to say though that the QX90 binds to my Taranis no problem, despite it being the EU version. To send the quad into bind mode is a little fiddly. You have to hold down the bind button on the receiver while at the same time powering the quad. Then press the bind option on the transmitter and the green LED on the quad should go off. Turn everything off and back on again and the receiver's light will show a solid green and you are bound. You can then use channel 5 to arm the quad. Motor stop is turned on as default so the props will not rotate until you lift the throttle. Let's go and take it for a fly. I don't want to talk over this too much, so I'll just mention a couple of things. As this is an out-of-the-box flight without the quadcopter being plugged into the computer, this flight is done purely in angle mode. It's worth pointing out though that angle mode is probably the best mode for such tight proximity flying like this. And for flying indoors, angle mode is a must in my opinion. There's a couple of jitters where the PIDs need ironing out and a couple of vibrations from the props. Finding a better balanced set of Hubsan props will sort that out, but in all, this little flyer is awesome and I thoroughly recommend it. I was getting a 7-minute flight time with these batteries, which is pretty standard at this size on a brushed quadcopter. I'll put a link in the description of where to buy it, as well as any other parts you need to get it flying. I hope you enjoy the rest of this flight. Cheers!
I'll never forget this day. I'll never forget this day. I'll never forget this day. I'm gonna throw my memories away. Now I feel I'm done, and I am cursed by every day till my time is gone. I've never felt this way before, and now I know this all for sure. I won't forget your last betray. I'll never forget this day. Forget this day. I'll never forget this day. I'll never forget this day. I'm gonna throw my memories away. Now I feel I'm done, and I am cursed by every day till my time is gone. I've never felt this way before, and now I know this all for sure. I won't forget your last betray. I'll never forget